What if your energy wasn't just something you had, but the very force shaping your reality, your strength, and your identity? What if the moment you learned to shift it, you didn't just feel better, you became unrecognizable, stronger than logic allows, calmer than chaos expects, aware of things most can't even sense? This isn't science fiction, it's the reality waiting behind your current frequency. In this video, we're not talking about surface-level wellness. We're diving into an ancient and modern secret, how to manipulate the energetic architecture of your body to unlock superhuman potential, and what happens when you go too far. Because once you change your energy field, the world doesn't see you the same way, and neither do you. We'll explore breath as a bioelectric weapon, thought as a command signal, and emotion as a code that reprograms your identity. You'll discover the hidden feedback loops, brainwave hacks, and pineal activations that mystics, warriors, and scientists have only just begun to understand. But be warned, this isn't about feeling better, it's about becoming something else. So if you're ready to remember the power you were never taught, to unlock a version of yourself that doesn't fit in polite society, then stay with us. Because once you tune your frequency, you'll never be normal again, and that might just be your destiny. Most people move through life completely unaware that beneath their skin, beyond their nerves and organs, lies a radiant architecture made of pure energy. Ancient mystics called it the subtle body. Today, some refer to it as the biofield. But its existence is not folklore, it's a vibrational reality. This structure is not metaphorical. It's a lattice of frequency pathways, energetic nodes, and quantum potentials woven together like a living mandala. And it governs far more than health. It controls perception, power, and potential. This energy body is not just a shadow of your biology. It's the blueprint behind your very existence. Every emotion, every thought, every intention flows through its circuitry. The chakras. They're not just spinning wheels of color. They're electromagnetic hubs connected to specific organs, thought forms, and dimensions of awareness. The meridians. Think of them as quantum wires, carrying signals faster than light. The more attuned you become to this field, the more you realize you were never just flesh and bone. When you begin to work with this architecture consciously, something strange starts to happen. Your sense of physical limitation begins to dissolve. You recover faster, move faster, think faster. Strength no longer feels like a product of muscle. It becomes an echo of your internal frequency. Masters of martial arts, yogis, and energy workers have all tapped into this hidden layer. They don't bend reality by force. They resonate with it. They interface with the code behind the simulation. But there's a reason this knowledge has been hidden or dismissed for centuries. Once you awaken to this energy map, you start to sense that everything is vibrationally malleable, including you. This realization breaks the consensus trance. You're no longer governed by the collective agreements of what's normal, and in that moment, you step outside the human story and into something far more mysterious. The architecture of your energy body is not static. It's evolving with every breath, every thought, every alignment. And once you start redesigning it, once you start energizing the right channels, clearing the distortions, harmonizing your inner frequencies, you begin the process of becoming inhumanly capable. But the cost? You may never look at reality the same way again. Most people think of thoughts as abstract, mental whispers that live in the mind and fade into nothingness. But this is an illusion born of limited perception. In truth, every thought is electric. Each mental impulse generates a measurable electromagnetic field, rippling through your neural network and extending into your energy body. This isn't just spiritual metaphor, it's bioelectrical reality. And once you understand it, you can start bending your biology with the power of your mind. When a thought repeats, it carves a neurological pathway, a groove in the brain's electric landscape. But that groove doesn't stay in the brain. It echoes into the muscles, the posture, the breath. Think defeat and your shoulders sink, your breath shortens, your energy collapses. Think victory and your spine rises, your chest opens, and strength floods your system like a current. You are constantly sculpting your physical capacity through this invisible architecture of thought electricity. This is why affirmations, when charged with emotion and belief, can do more than boost confidence. They can rewire performance. When your inner dialogue vibrates with power, your cells listen, your muscles respond. Studies in neuroplasticity show that visualizing a movement can increase physical strength nearly as much as performing the movement itself. Why? Because the energy signal is received just the same. The nervous system is a listener, and thought is the command signal. But there's a deeper layer. Thoughts don't just affect the muscles, they affect the quantum field around you. They instruct your biofield on how to organize. They emit frequencies that collapse potential into reality. If your dominant thoughts radiate resilience, precision, or power, then the energetic scaffolding of your life begins to mirror those traits. This is how athletes enter flow states. This is how mystics perform so-called miracles. They've mastered thought electricity, and yet, with great potential comes a fork in the path, because thought can also distort. Feed your field with fear, self-doubt, or internalized limitation, and your strength will shrink to match that frequency. The power is real, but it's neutral. You are the tuning fork, and how you think is how you transmit. The brain is not just a thinking machine, it's a frequency generator. And like a radio tuning through stations, your brainwaves shift through different states of consciousness. Most people live in beta, fast, scattered, stressed, but buried beneath that noise lies a doorway. A frequency pattern so powerful, so precise, that it acts like a master key to the body's hidden reserves of energy. This is the Theta-Gamma bridge, and it's where superhuman activation begins. Theta is the slow, dreamy wave. It emerges in deep meditation, hypnosis, and early sleep. But here's the secret: when theta waves are overlaid with bursts of gamma, ultra-high frequency oscillations, something remarkable happens. The brain becomes coherent, hemispheres synchronize. Neural activity becomes like a symphony, each region firing in harmony. In this state, energy surges, time distorts. The body enters a peak state of regeneration and performance. Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks of this often. In his research, people who enter this brainwave cocktail report spontaneous healings, bursts of physical strength, even profound mystical experiences. Why? Because this pattern activates the pineal gland, releases powerful neurochemicals like DMT and oxytocin, and floods the body with bioelectric vitality. It's not just mind over matter, it's frequency over form. And yet, most people never access this pattern. They're trapped in beta loops, endless mental chatter, stress hormones, fragmented awareness. But with practice, through breathwork, heart-brain coherence, focused visualization, and emotional mastery, you can train your brain to shift. You can enter this secret rhythm intentionally, and when you do, the energy that surges through you is unmistakable. You feel more than human. But here's the caveat. Once you taste this frequency, regular consciousness feels flat. The ordinary world loses its grip. You begin to see that your normal self was just a dimmed-down version of what's possible. And if you stay in this frequency too long without grounding, you risk becoming untethered from the human experience itself. That's the paradox of awakening. The higher you go, the harder it is to return. Breath is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. It's the only bodily function both automatic and under conscious control, a divine loophole in the code of human biology. Ancient yogis knew this. They didn't breathe just to survive. They breathed to awaken, to transcend, to transform. And now, science is catching up. Every inhale, every exhale carries an electrical signal that recharges and reshapes your electromagnetic field. When you breathe deeply and rhythmically, especially into the belly, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and repair mode. But more than that, you generate coherence in your heart rhythm, which in turn signals the brain to produce alpha and theta waves. This coherence is measurable. It radiates from your heart in a toroidal field, extending up to 8 feet outside the body. It's like tuning your energy to a broadcast frequency that other systems, yours and others, respond to. Techniques like box breathing, Wim Hof's method, or alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana, aren't just stress reducers, they're energetic recalibrators. When done with intention, they unlock the lungs as electromagnetic batteries, increasing oxygenation, alkalizing the blood, and electrifying the cells. This surge in bioelectric potential is what gives rise to heightened strength, sharper focus, and even altered states of awareness. Breath is not passive, it's an energy weapon. There's a deeper layer still. Certain breathwork patterns can entrain the brain into gamma states, activate the pineal gland, and open gateways to visionary insight. Pranayama traditions speak of kumbhaka, the breath retention phase, as the moment the inner fire is stoked. In that silence, between breaths, the body shifts from chemical energy to pranic energy, from food-based fuel to pure life force. But here lies the edge of transformation. As you alter your electromagnetic field with breath, you may begin to feel less dense, less human. Your body starts vibrating differently, sometimes shaking, sometimes glowing with heat or light. It's exhilarating and disorienting. Because the moment you realize your energy is in your control is also the moment you understand you've never truly been normal. Reality, as most people experience it, is a shared agreement, a collective broadcast tuned to a narrow band of frequencies. But what happens when you shift your internal frequency out of sync with the collective? What happens when your energy no longer vibrates at ordinary? The world begins to blur. Patterns start to crack. You stop participating in reality and start observing it from the outside. This is what frequency tuning really does. It's not just a feel-good practice. It's a dismantling of the old operating system. When you raise your vibration through breath, emotion, intention, or meditation, you no longer resonate with fear-based systems. You stop reacting to old triggers. You become invisible to drama, untouched by manipulation, repelled by low-vibe environments. But in doing so, you also begin to feel like an alien in your own life. The foods you once craved, now they feel heavy. The conversations that once engaged you, now they drain. Even your old goals might seem irrelevant. This is the detachment phase, when your frequency has risen high enough that the world you knew no longer fits. It can feel lonely or liberating. You're unplugged from the matrix, and that means everything that was familiar starts to dissolve. This is the paradox of ascension. As you vibrate higher, reality responds differently. Synchronicities increase, manifestations happen faster. Time behaves strangely, stretching, folding, collapsing. You realize the universe isn't static, it's reactive, it's a mirror. And when your internal tuning shifts, so does the reflection. This is where magic begins, but also where the ego panics, because you're no longer human in the old sense. You've outgrown the collective illusion. But here's the gift. In this new state, you don't just escape reality, you begin to reprogram it. From this higher frequency, intention becomes causation, emotion becomes architecture, and life becomes a canvas you paint with vibration. The cost: you can never unknow what you now know. You can't go back to the ordinary, because the moment you change your frequency is the moment reality changes you. For centuries, the brain was seen as the master organ, the seat of intelligence, control, and perception. But modern science is catching up to what ancient mystics always knew. The heart holds the true power, not just emotionally, but electromagnetically. The heart's energy field is 60 times stronger electrically and up to 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain's. When the two are in harmony, a state known as heart-brain coherence, reality itself begins to bend. Heart-brain coherence isn't just a nice feeling, it's a measurable frequency alignment. When you breathe rhythmically, feel elevated emotions like gratitude or compassion, and enter a meditative awareness, your heart rhythm stabilizes into a smooth sine wave. This coherent signal communicates with the brain through the vagus nerve, entraining it into alpha or even gamma brainwave states. The result? Intuition sharpens, focus deepens, energy multiplies, but it goes deeper. In this coherent state, the body becomes electromagnetically efficient. Blood pressure stabilizes, hormonal cascades balance, the immune system strengthens. More importantly, intention becomes amplified. Because in coherence, your energy field becomes unified. It stops leaking power through emotional chaos and begins to broadcast a focused frequency, a signal to the quantum field that reshapes experience. This is how healers activate spontaneous transformations. It's how ancient warriors remained calm in battle. It's why shamans and monks radiate that unshakable stillness. They're not just calm, they're coherent. And from that coherence flows a type of strength that transcends muscle, a strength born from energetic harmony, from vibrational congruence. It's superhuman, not because it's unnatural, but because it's what human was always meant to be. And yet, coherence comes with a choice. Once you've lived in that harmony, chaos feels unbearable. Once you've aligned your heart and brain, returning to fragmentation feels like spiritual violence. The path of coherence is the path of truth, and once you walk it, there's no pretending anymore. You either live in alignment or feel the pain of the dissonance. In quantum physics, the observer effect reveals something astonishing. Particles exist in a state of infinite possibility until observed. The act of observation collapses them into a specific reality. But this isn't just a subatomic curiosity, it's a mirror for consciousness. You are the observer. And every time you choose how to perceive yourself, you collapse your identity into a version of you. The question is, what are you choosing to observe? Most people unconsciously observe themselves through the lens of the past. I am tired. I'm not strong. I always fail. These are not just thoughts, they are identity anchors, and each one collapses your infinite potential into a limited, repetitive self. But when you begin to observe yourself differently, through love, through vision, through quantum awareness, you collapse into a new frequency, a new identity, a new body, even. This is not just philosophical, it's biological. Neuroscience shows that perception reshapes brain structure. Belief affects gene expression. Intention reorganizes neural networks. When you become conscious of the observer within you, the awareness behind the thoughts, you unlock the power to rewrite your reality from the inside out. You stop being the product of cause and effect and start becoming the cause itself. But here's the paradox. As you observe yourself into more powerful versions, your old self begins to die. The ego resists, it clings. It screams, who will I be without this pain, without this story, without this name? And that is the true spiritual initiation, to let go of who you've always been for the sake of who you're capable of becoming. It's not just self-improvement, it's identity alchemy. And the deeper you go, the more surreal it becomes, because eventually you realize that even the new version is a choice. Even the you you've upgraded into is still a frequency, a construct, a waveform collapsed by attention. And if you go far enough, you stop being someone entirely and start being awareness itself. Formless, limitless, human no longer. With great power comes not only great responsibility, but great risk, and the journey into energetic mastery, into quantum consciousness and inhuman strength, is not all light. As you peel away the layers of limitation, as you dissolve the identities you've outgrown, something strange and unsettling begins to happen. You start to forget how to be human. At first, it's subtle, emotional detachment, a loss of interest in ordinary pleasures. You stop relating to people as you once did. Their worries seem distant, their games meaningless. Even your own past struggles feel like stories someone else lived. This can be empowering, but also isolating. Because as your frequency rises, you may no longer recognize yourself in the mirror of society. You're tuned out of the collective dream. For some, this detachment becomes a kind of ego inflation. I am above this. I've evolved beyond emotion. I am not like them. But this is just the shadow wearing a new costume, and it's dangerous, because in transcending your humanity, you may begin to disown it, to suppress your tenderness, to reject your vulnerability. You may start chasing power for its own sake, forgetting that love is the true force that guides higher evolution. The ancients warned of this. In many esoteric traditions, the final test of the initiate wasn't power, it was compassion. Could you hold your divinity without losing your empathy? Could you remain rooted in humanity while walking among gods? The shadow side of spiritual strength is arrogance, emotional numbness, and disconnection from the heart. And if unchecked, it can lead to a state that is powerful, but soulless. But there is a way through. It lies in integration, in choosing to descend as much as you ascend, in allowing yourself to feel, to grieve, to love, even as you awaken to your vastness. To embody both spirit and skin, frequency and flesh, because true strength isn't becoming less human, it's becoming fully human, awakened, open, and utterly real. The universe is not linear. It doesn't operate in straight lines. It dances in spirals, and your reality is not a one-way street. It's a feedback loop, a constantly evolving echo between your inner world and the outer field. Every thought, every frequency you emit comes back as experience. This is the loop, and once you become conscious of it, you gain the ability to hack it, rewriting your identity with every cycle. Imagine this. Your internal frequency sends out a signal. That signal interacts with the quantum field, the space of infinite potential, and draws in experiences that match it. Those experiences reinforce your beliefs. Those beliefs reshape your energy, and the loop continues. But here's the secret. You can intervene at any point. Change the thought, change the energy, change the loop, reinvent the self. Most people are trapped in unconscious feedback cycles, living the same day, with the same emotions, recreating the same identity. But when you start tuning your field intentionally, you generate a new signal, one of empowerment, vision, possibility. And the universe begins to respond differently. The more you see yourself as powerful, the more powerful you become. The feedback confirms it. The loop strengthens it. This is where exponential growth begins. Because once the loop becomes conscious, it accelerates. You're no longer waiting for change. You're instigating it. You're not reacting to reality. You're engineering it. This is how people transform their lives in weeks instead of years. They shift the signal. The field responds. The results reinforce the new identity, and on it goes. But here's the mystical twist. When you master the loop, you realize that there is no fixed self, just a constantly updating broadcast. A living waveform of intention, emotion, and belief. The self is not a noun, it's a verb, a frequency. And when you take control of the loop, you become the composer of your own evolution, not just stronger, but reborn, buried deep in the center of the brain, shaped like a tiny pine cone, lies the pineal gland, a structure long regarded by mystics as the seat of the soul. Science sees it as a neuroendocrine organ that regulates circadian rhythms through melatonin. But ancient wisdom sees much more. In esoteric traditions, the pineal is a spiritual antenna, capable of receiving information from higher dimensions and altering the very texture of reality. When the pineal gland is activated, through breath work, meditation, fasting, and coherent intention, it begins to emit biophotons, tiny packets of light. This light is not metaphor. It's measurable, and it interacts with the electromagnetic field of the body, creating changes in perception, cognition, and energetic sensitivity. You begin to see more clearly, not with your eyes, but with your inner vision. The veil thins. Reality bends. One of the most profound shifts is how time feels. With the pineal awakened, past and future blur into a present vortex. Intuition spikes. Dreams become lucid. Synchronicities flood your path like breadcrumbs from the quantum field. And most mysteriously, you begin to feel what others are thinking, see energy in patterns, decode symbols with instinctual clarity. You are no longer interpreting reality, you are co-authoring it. In this state, the world becomes interactive. Intentions manifest more quickly because your signal to the field is amplified. Emotions, when charged with vision, become commands. Even physical strength increases, not because you've gained more muscle, but because the brain-body system is firing in harmonic resonance. Energy moves with less resistance. You're operating on a new bandwidth. But activating the pineal isn't just a one-time event. It's a lifestyle, a vibrational devotion. It requires purity, stillness, and the courage to see beyond illusion. Because once the pineal is fully online, your perception will never be the same. You'll see through the masks of society, feel the distortion in false systems, and awaken to the truth that you are not just in the universe, you are the universe, observing itself through a quantum lens. The human body has long been seen as a container, a vessel of skin, bone, and mind, bounded by limitation. But what if this is the great illusion? What if your body is not a container at all, but a conduit? A dynamic bridge through which universal energy flows, modulates, and expresses itself in form. When this shift in perception occurs, everything changes. Strength, intelligence, even identity are no longer self-generated, they are channeled. To become a conduit is to surrender the false sense of being the sole doer. You stop forcing, you start flowing. Energy doesn't originate within you, it passes through you, shaped by your intention, purified by your frequency. This is how shamans call in storms, how healers transmit light through their hands, how mystics speak truths they never studied. They've aligned their system to become an instrument, not a generator, of higher force. The irony is that the more you step aside, the more powerful you become. Ego loosens, fear dissolves, action becomes effortless. You might move with sudden speed, strength, or clarity that feels not your own, because it isn't. It's energy, responding to intention, using your body as a relay point. In that moment, you're not acting as a person. You're functioning as a field, and the power flowing through you is pure source. But there's a discipline to this. The conduit must be clear, emotionally clean, energetically aligned. You can't channel high-frequency energy through a distorted pipeline. That's why ancient initiates fasted, purified, meditated, not for religion, but to remove interference, to become like a crystal, transparent, resonant, attuned. In this clarity, even the impossible becomes natural. And this is the ultimate shift from identity to interface, from trying to doing to being used. You become less about me and more about flow, less container, more current. And the moment you accept this role, not as a seeker of power, but as a servant of it, you open the door to energies that transcend the human blueprint. You stop being a body with energy and become energy with a temporary body. Once you've crossed the threshold, once you've awakened to your true nature as energy, it becomes nearly impossible to fit back into the mold of conventional existence. The material world, once so dominant, now feels like a layer, not the foundation. You begin to see through the simulation. Buildings become geometry, people become frequencies, events become waveforms of meaning, and you are no longer a personality, you are a presence. Living as an energy being doesn't mean you abandon the physical, it means you master it. You start eating not for flavor, but for vibration. You speak not to be heard, but to transmit frequency. You walk into rooms and feel their emotional residue. Technology becomes a tool, not a tether. Your body is no longer your identity, it's your interface. You inhabit it with reverence, but not attachment. And then comes the challenge. How do you relate to a world that still believes in limitation? How do you work, love, connect, or even communicate with those who haven't yet awakened? The answer lies in compassion. You don't need to preach, you need to radiate. Your frequency does the talking. Your calm becomes a healing. Your presence becomes a lighthouse for those still asleep in matter. This way of living is not without cost. You may feel chronically underwhelmed by superficiality. You may be misunderstood or even feared. You might outgrow careers, relationships, even whole communities. But this is the price of truth. You no longer bend to fit reality. You bend reality to fit truth. And that truth is frequency. Ultimately, to live as an energy being is to reclaim your divine inheritance. To walk this world lightly, knowing you are not of it. To participate in the illusion with full awareness of the source behind it. And to move, speak, breathe, and love. As if every moment were a vibration rippling into eternity, because it is. You were never meant to live confined by the laws of the ordinary. You were encoded with potential so vast, so luminous, it could bend time, shift matter, and reshape the very story of what it means to be human. But the key was never in a pill, a guru, or a machine. The key was your frequency, your energy, your choice to awaken. And now, you've glimpsed it. You've felt the edges of your own power, how thoughts shape tissue, how breath rewrites code, how intention warps reality. You've seen how energy doesn't just respond to you, it becomes you. The question isn't whether you're powerful, it's whether you're ready to live as if you are. So stay in the practice, tune your frequency daily, move like a conductor of light, speak like your words ripple into dimensions unseen, and above all, feel, because energy responds to emotion. That's the gateway to creation. If this awakened something in you, if you felt the ancient knowing stir within, then like this video, subscribe to the Cosmic Awakening channel, and share this transmission with others ready to activate. Because the world doesn't need more normal, it needs you, fully awakened, radiantly inhuman, divinely unstoppable.